Students, we have started this chapter enemy, and we have read most of the chapter, and we have read that that Hannah and Sadao, they come across a white man. They found him in the sea, and now they are very much in dilemma that what should be done. And what was the dilemma is about their about Sadao, that what should he follow? Should he follow his profession or should he follow his patriotism? He was fixed there. He was in dilemma because he could not leave his profession there, and he could not deceive his country. So that was the biggest question for him. But somehow, consciously or unconsciously, he knew the answer what he is going to do. He is going to perform both of the duties. He could not let any duty behind. He is a very good doctor, and he is going to perform that duty as well, and he is also going to be a good citizen, a responsible citizen towards his country. We have read so far that they brought this white man to the house, and now Sadao is looking for his wounds, and he is performing whatever he has to do, and they have just bathed him, and that has happened till here. Till now we have read. So let's start next. Now we are going to read from here. Now Sadao remembered the wound, and with his expert fingers he began to search for it. Blood flowed freshly at his touch. On the right side of his lower back, Sadao saw that a gun wound has been reopened. The flesh was blackened with powder. Sometime not many days ago, the man had been shot and had not been tended. It was bad chance that the rock has stuck the wound. So we have read it that that has happened with him. So then they just took him to the house, and he just looked for his wound, and his wound, he saw that it was a very much deep wound. It was a deep cut, and he was shot at that time also. And now what they did next, they just they just prepared to wash him, and Sadao said that that Hannah is not going to wash him. Then they called for Yumi was a servant, and then see what happened next. I will tell him that what you say, Hannah replied courteously, but she herself was also frightened. Although she was not superstitious as the old man was, could it ever be well to help an enemy? Nevertheless, she told Yumi to fetch the hot water and bring it to the room where the white man was. She went ahead and slid back the partitions. Sadao was not yet there. Yumi, following, put down her wooden bucket. Then she went over to white man. When she saw him, her thick lips folded themselves into a stubbornness. I have never washed a white man, she said, and I will not wash so dirty a one now. So what happened? The Sadao and Hannah, they are just going to tell, to inform their servants that they are having this man in the room, and Sadao was not letting Hannah to wash him. So then they have to call Yumi, and she called Yumi. She told everything to Yumi, and meanwhile Sadao told everything to Gardner and the other of the servants. Gardner was very much reluctant accepting this truth that that his servant is going to treat a white man, their enemy, and he was not okay with it. And that has also happened with Yumi. Yumi said that she just initially she just got ready to wash him, and when she just entered the room and when she saw the white man, she was very stubborn at the time. She said that she had never done this kind of thing, and she's not going to do that one again. So Hannah cried at her severely, "You will do what your master commands you." There was so fierce a look of resistance upon Yumi's round, dull face that Hannah felt unreasonably afraid. After all, if the servant should report something, that was not as it happened. So then, when Yumi refused to do that thing, then Hannah just, firmly told her that you have to do whatever whatever your master is going to tell. But that look she saw at, Yumi's face, that was very firm, that was very strong. She got afraid. Why she was afraid at that time? She was afraid that because she knew that, somehow they could inform the police or inform the government officials, and they will be in very much in problem. So that was the thing of concern for her, and which made her frightened in front of her servants. So what happened? "Very well," she said with dignity. "You understand, we only want to bring him to his senses so that we can turn him over as a prisoner." "I will have nothing to do with it," Yumi said. "I am a poor person and it is not my business." "Then please," Hannah said gently, "return to your own work." At once Yumi left the room, but this left Hannah with the white man alone. She might have been too afraid to stay had not her anger at Yumi's stubbornness now sustained her. "Stupid Yumi," she muttered fiercely. "Is this anything but a man, and a wounded helpless man?" So then she said, she become a little calm, and she said that, that you have to understand that we are not going to keep him here. We are not going to treat him. We are just, getting him into senses. Once he get his senses, we are going to turn him to the police, and we are not going to treat him. So then Yumi said that, that I have nothing to do with that. I am just a servant. I am just an ordinary person. I am not going to treat him. I am not going to do anything. So then Hannah just told her that, just okay, fine, if you're not going to do anything to him, just go back to your work. And then Yumi left the room, and then Hannah was, alone with that person in the room, that white man, and it was also a very frightening thing for her. And she just, calmed herself that, he's just a white man, or, he's just a wounded man. What harm can he do to them? And she just, making herself, pacifying herself, making herself calm, because she was very much afraid at the time. So what happened next? In the conviction of her own superiority, she bent impulsively and untied the knotted rugs that kept the white man covered. When she had his breast bare, she dipped the small clean towel that Yumi had brought into the steaming hot water and washed his face carefully. The man's skin, though rough with the exposure, was of fine texture and must have been very blond when he was a child. While she was thinking these thoughts, though not really liking the man better now than he was no longer a child, she kept on washing him until his upper body was quite clean, but she dared not turn him over. Where was thou? Now her anger was ebbing, and she was anxious again, and she rose, wiping her hands on the wrong towel, and then lest the man be chilled, she put the quilt over him. So what she started doing, that sponging of that man herself. She just sit there, and she just bent on him, and she just trying to wipe his face. And then she saw his face, that his face is very much of good texture, and he was just a young man. She just gathered the information that he must be very blonde when he was not there in the prison, and he was very young man, and she was just having those thoughts in her mind. And then she just washed him, cleaned him from the front of his body, and then she has to turn him, but she was not able to turn him, and she really did not want to do that. And then at that time she was thinking about Sadao, and she was very much angry at that time that he has not come back to her, and she was left there with this white man. So what she did, she was just left everything there, and she just getting to standing to go out of the room. And then she felt that that this person must be chilled, because at that time he was uncovered with his clothes, and she was just tending him. So she just put a quilt over him so that he must not get more chilled. And then what happened? Sadao, she called softly. He had been about to come in when she called. His hand had been on the door, and now he opened it. She saw that he had brought his surgeon's emergency bag, and that he wore his surgeon's coat. You have decided to operate? She cried. Yes, he said shortly. He turned his back to her and unfolded a sterilized towel upon the floor of the tokonama, a clove, and put his instruments out upon him. Fetch towels, he said. She went obediently, but how anxious now, to the linen shelves and took out the towels. There ought also to be old pieces of matting so that the flood would not ruin the fine floor covering. She went out to the back veranda where the gardener kept strings of matting with which to protect delicate shrubs on cold night, and took an armful of them. So what happened, then she called for Sadao, and what she saw when Sadao came into the room, he's having a operation bag with him, that emergency bag with him, and he's wearing that emergency coat. And then she inquired him that, are you going to operate him? He said that yes, he very firmly said that, because he really need an immediate operation at that time. So she was just worried about at that time about the floor of Tokonama. The meaning is given here. A Japanese home for displaying a flower arrangement. It is a kind of a thing, and she was worried about those shelves, about those quilts, about the bed sheet. She was all worried about it, because she knew that everything will be covered in blood, and she was worried that that this a bed or bed sheet will be covered with some old pieces, her floor covering. It means that her house will be very much spoiled with all those blood. And just she went out of the veranda where Gardner put the mats for use. She was just bringing them to the room so that her bed and her bed sheets and all those things will be covered properly. So we are going to read till here. Read this chapter till here, or you can read it further. Very easy to understand. But it is one of the important chapters, so you have to read it well, because those questions will be coming from within the chapter. So read the chapter carefully.